Please listen carefully.
Hello, universe, and welcome to the Optimist Daily Update. I'm Christy Jansen.
And I'm Summers McKay.
We're part of the team behind the Optimist Daily, making solutions the news. We bring you reader-funded solutions news every day in order to change the tenor of news media, social media, and the direction of your day to help us all get focused on solutions.
7 days a week, we publish positive news stories written by award-winning journalists and delivered online to your inbox and through our social channels. And also, we are sharing these solutions in a commute-worthy, walk-worthy, home office-worthy, St. Patty's Day-worthy podcast. Today is Thursday, the 17th of March, 2022. Happy St. Patrick's Day, Christy.
Well, happy St. Patrick's Day to you, Summers. I think you are the Irish friend in the room here. So
I am.
How are you going to celebrate today?
My daughter wore her green pair of pants to school today.
What about you? Are you wearing green? Or should we pinch you?
I do not yet have green on. And admittedly, I realized this morning that anything that I have that's green is actually in my old house, like the house that's currently in reconstruction. So I may have to go climb around in my closet to see if I can secure a green shirt of some kind, because I am operating on a limited wardrobe at the moment.
Wait. What about your green dress that you had in California?
That's true. Because
I saw you wear that.
I could just wear a pretty dress all day.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to do. When I get out of these pajamas, I'm going to put on my green dress. I think that's in the laundry. I think so. Anyway, we will celebrate. We're going to do, I'm going to slow cook some corned beef and just kind of do our thing, have some cabbage and, celebrate a little bit. Obviously, this is not a big Irish holiday so much as it is an American Irish holiday or a Irish genealogical holiday. But I love St. Patrick's Day. Actually, Christy, this day, 12 years ago on St. Patrick's Day, is the day that I was admitted into my graduate program at UCLA.
Oh.
So I was very, very lucky that day to get in. And the admissions director who called me, I wrote a silly little poem about being, Irish eyes and a great day in UCLA and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, St. Patrick's Day, I celebrate not only my Irish heritage, but also my graduate degree.
Yeah.
Well, Christy, let's go with some green solutions for this St. Patrick's Day. Even if you're not wearing green, you can be green and changing the world for good.
What are you going to talk about? Let's start with your story today.
My headline reads, to reduce reliance on Russian gas, Italy approves 6 more wind farms. This is some of the tactical stuff we are reporting on at the Optimist Daily to address the crisis in Ukraine and the Russian invasion. And many of the countries all throughout the world are taking action to reduce the power that Russia can have in powering and fueling our world. Italy is determined to wean itself off of its dependence on Russian gas by giving the green light to construct 6 more wind farms with a capacity of 418 megawatts. According to a government statement, these new farms will be erected in the central and southern regions of Puglia, Basilicata, and Sardinia. I've had lots of language in my stories this week. And are in addition to the 2 wind farms with a capacity of 65 megawatts that the government had already cleared last month. Italy's plan is to end its reliance on Russian gas within 30 months. This is great. 2.5 years, done, says the Minister of the Ecological Transition. They strive to do this along with the rest of the EU, the UK, and the United States. Though it will be difficult for the country to stop depending on Russian gas, climate change think tank ECHO believes it should be able to manage if they implement energy-efficient measures, roll out renewables quickly, and leverage existing gas infrastructure. Now, Italy is 3rd in place in all of Europe for both renewable power consumption and electrical and thermal power production from renewable sources. And it is also one of the 14 EU countries that was able to reach its 2020 target of renewables as a percentage of the total energy consumption. In fact, they surpassed their goal of 17% and came in at 18.2%. So the world is looking at what's happening and saying no more. And the efforts and energy shift will also minimize the ability that Russia has on, controlling some of the well-being of the world.
Sure. And it's interesting how while there's going to be a push to probably further exploit existing resources that are alternative to Russian oil and gas in the short term, in the long term, 30 months, which isn't really that long, this might be the push towards really getting into other sorts of energy independence like wind, solar.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that's amazing about renewables is they're actually a lot faster to install compared to a lot of the existing kinds of oil and gas infrastructure. And you can do it on a smaller scale at local levels, like the distributed energy. I'm glad that in this case, at least, it's pushing Italy and other parts of Europe towards more renewable energy.
And this is one of those situations that can evolve technology faster than it might have evolved otherwise, because it becomes a collective sort of moonshot, right? Like it becomes very clear very quickly that there's a economic, a security, and a climate incentive to make a drastic change.
Yeah.
I think, in some ways, just like we know that medical technology evolved dramatically during the pandemic, energy technology can perhaps be accelerated in evolving because of this conflict.
We have the technology. We just have to build the political will to deploy it.
Exactly. To prioritize it.
And basically hold our breath while it's being deployed, because it is winter, or it's coming out of winter, but there's a lot of dependence on natural gas in Europe from the Russian suppliers. Yeah. So we're watching this closely, and we'll keep reporting on these kinds of things. Speaking of watching the Russia-Ukraine conflict closely, my headline also addresses that, because this is a war not only of violence, but also of information. And we talked about this a little bit when we did our couple-day hiatus, where we were focused on places to go to get information that was reliable and accurate and realistic and not propaganda. But there's tons of propaganda being put out, and it's potentially getting shared or boosted inadvertently by people who are picking up on something that sounds good, it sounds interesting, and then it gets spread widely through social media. So this headline that I wanted to focus on reads, "Some tips to spot false posts about the Russia-Ukraine conflict." And it's something that we're very aware of on the Optimist Daily, and a lot of our readers are very aware of the ever-growing fake news industry. And as technology has advanced, there's even the possibility to create very, very good deep fake videos. It's hard to know what to believe and what to question. Misinformation is a common tactic for propagandists. It distracts, it confuses, it helps redirect public opinion, and this is used by everyone. Particularly, it gets bad in times of war. In World War II, for example, President Roosevelt had his tactics to disparage the Germans and even lied at times. The Germans disparaged the Allies, and they took over popular newspapers and turned them into propaganda outlets. So this was part of warfare. Is about morale. It's about information and controlling the information that comes out. I think on the Russian TV, this was making the news yesterday morning. An editor in a Russian news station held a sign up on a live broadcast calling out the lies that are being promoted on Russian television, saying there really is a war.
Amazing that reporter made that choice, especially at the risk of their own lives and their own safety in order to do that.
Yeah. She was quickly arrested, and nobody's heard from her since. So, this
is a really perilous situation, right?
It is.
And propaganda is an effective tool. We know that people are easily manipulated. So what do we do about it?
Well, okay, so this article has a few tips on how to help us interpret this and maybe decide whether to take it seriously or ignore it. So first of all, look for misleading or old videos or old images that are being used and repurposed with new information. Look for clues like language that's being spoken, the weather, like if they're showing in the middle of winter when it's spring or summer and it's winter, look for the road signs. Are they really in Russian or Ukrainian, or are they not? There was one that I saw yesterday where there was a bunch of body bags, and there was information saying that all these body bags were being sent home. That was the audio. But actually, the images were a climate change demonstration in Austria, gotten repurposed for this. And this came from the news literacy agency that I subscribe to.
Well, and in that instance, sometimes it's just a mistake, not an intentional propaganda, right? And journalists are moving so quickly to try to put images to stories. And we at the Optimist Daily work really, really hard to make sure that our images are well matched to our stories. But sometimes journalists do make mistakes. So it's a combination.
Yes, but whether it's a mistake or intentional, it's still a good idea to look carefully. If you're really being motivated to, you can use reverse image search to see if the photo or video has been shared previously in a different context. That can help you know that it's not accurate or real. Another tip to determine if something is real is to consider who is sharing that story and what the motivation might be. So go straight to the source and check out the account that shared that information. Does it look like a real person? Is it somebody clearly trying to push a particular narrative? Again, you could reverse image search their profile picture even to make sure they're not a fake person or a repurposed individual, right?
Yeah.
And then always take a second to think. If you get outraged and you're like, oh my God, this is terrible. Like the false story about the US building bioweapons labs in the Ukraine. That was making the rounds over the weekend. And it got shared maybe inadvertently by some prominent Americans, but it's a conspiracy theory and it's been debunked numerous times. But it's one of those stories that can feel real because it's got the emotional triggers built into it. So if you're emotionally triggered, it's another way to go, oh, well, maybe I'm being manipulated here, and take a second, breathe, see if it's real before you share it. So those are just a couple of tips. And remember to breathe, slow down.
Well, and right now, it's different than when we are in the midst of a lot of political manipulation here in the United States during a political campaign where we can flat out say, like, if you're inflamed, it's probably just intentionally inflaming you. This situation is emotional. It is okay to be inflamed and moved and brought to tears and angry. So some of our metrics for, if it's bringing up a ton of emotions in previous, we would say, check your sources. Now we're saying check your sources to ensure that those emotions are being well spent on true information, and do share real and true information. We'll continue to list sources on the Optimist Daily. We have a page on the Optimist Daily about Ukraine. We have team members who are from the region who are helping us vet our sources that we reference and recommend on that page as well. So everybody, we're in this together, and the world is ready for some big changes from an energy standpoint and an information standpoint. We've got some other good stories on the Optimist Daily today. As always, on Thursdays, we get a little ahead of ourselves and run out of time, but a few that we can read about. Oh, I like this one. There's a 2-part series, Expert-Approved Ways of Dealing with Bad News, Solving the Mystery of Spider Flight.
And scientists have rediscovered a comical bat species feared extinct for 40 years. That and more on theoptimistdaily.com. Thanks everybody for listening to our Optimist Daily Update. We promise to keep sharing positive solution-based stories with ideas on how you can participate in the changing world, help ensure it is changed for the good, and we promise to keep covering current events with accuracy, legitimate sources, offering you the kinds of tips you need to help know what is going on in the world and chart new paths for all of us. And if you're not already, please consider becoming an emissary on theoptimistdaily.com, and you can help support independent, reader-funded journalism starting at just $5 a month. If you don't have the means, you can also share us across your social networks. You can, forward our stories to your friends and loved ones, and you can also give us a rating on wherever you're listening to us to help more people find the Optimist Daily Update. Be a part of the solution changing consciousness that addresses our world's biggest challenges with that problem-solving mindset. Please help us keep the Optimist Daily free for all who need it, supported by those of us who can. That's it, Summers. We're done for Thursday. Happy St. Patrick's Day to all of you, and we'll be back tomorrow with more solutions.